Aloha, I'm Jack Dugan with Maui Now and Pacific Media Group. And today we're with attorney Shannon Sheldon. Shannon is the newly appointed president of the Hawai'i State Bar Association. And that's especially significant because Shannon is one of only 3 neighbor island presidents in the history of that organization. And she's the first female neighbor island president as well. We're gonna take a few minutes and sit down with Shannon and get her insights on top issues here in Maui County, such as affordable housing and also what they call the brain drain. Let's go talk to Shannon. All right, Shannon, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations on the presidency of the Hawai'i State Bar Association.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes,
what an
that's right.
accomplishment.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, so in a few quick words, how would you describe the role that entails as the president and maybe one of your top goals?
Well, so this Hawai'i State Bar consists of 8,000 attorneys, but I know, which is a lot, right? And that 5,000 are active attorneys, and on Maui there's really only about 300 active attorneys. And because we're a mandatory state bar, that means all attorneys are in the bar, and my goal is to inspire those attorneys to promote justice, help the public, and improve the legal profession. My primary goal this year is to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is DEI. It's kind of a hot buzzword. Okay. It's basically to promote and inspire women, people of color, to taking those higher roles within the legal community, so judges, partners at firms, government, legislature, and that's my primary goal.
Gotcha. And apparently there's maybe a little bit of disparity there in the way that is made up now and where you think it should be or could be.
Yeah, I'd like to say here in Hawaii, we're actually, we have a lot of equality, compared to other states, but you can always do better. Yeah. And particularly those that are Hawaiian born, I'd like to see them achieve.
Yeah, great, awesome. Well, again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now let's jump into an important topic and one of the reasons why I think we're sitting here. So affordable housing here in Maui County, a real, as you say, hot button issue, and it's a crisis for many local families, and there's many different factors, one of which is we hear about the brain drain and local professionals leaving Hawaii, leaving Maui County to pursue, whether it's a better opportunity or more affordability, but leaving Hawaii to the mainland. What do you know about all this?
Well, I know a lot because that is tied into my goal to be promoting, diversity in our legal profession. And so this is what's happening in Hawaii in the last 5 years. Our population is actually decreasing. Most of that is from, I guess you'd call it outmigration. So there are 500,000 Hawaiian-born people on the mainland right now. There are more Hawaiian-born professionals that have a bachelor's degree on the mainland than in Hawaii. And so, so the numbers are staggering, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, the brain drain. Yeah. So our brightest are leaving. And the reason is, one, there's better job opportunities, on the mainland, and the average cost of salaries are on the average about $10,000 more on the mainland. Okay. And then, of course, the housing crisis, which is not new to Hawaii. It's been here since the 1970s, but we're really feeling the impact now. And when you're talking about the housing crisis, like the average median price on Maui for a house is, I think, currently $1.1 million.
Crazy. In
the nation, it's $270,000. So it's like the disparity is huge. Yeah. And so how can you expect, even professionals, I know lawyers that have been practicing 10 years living with their parents because they just simply can't afford to live. Yeah, so that's remarkable. Right, which is remarkable. But the sad thing about it is the more migration we have outside of Hawaii-born people, the less culture we'll have here. We won't be able to recognize Hawaii potentially in 50 years.
Speaking to professionals, right? So attorneys and maybe other professionals that you might, have a good grasp of. What are some of the effects, like direct effects? I mean, we see the housing and different things, but outside of that, maybe not just common knowledge. What are some direct effects that's going to affect the local community as these people expatriate and move to the mainland and are no longer here?
Well, I think we're going to see services, especially on the professional level, decrease. because it's hard to hire. You know, you can attract people from the mainland who want to come to Hawaii, but they're transient. They'll come to Hawaii, they'll buy a gallon of milk for $6, they'll last 6 months and realize how expensive it is and they'll leave, right? And they don't necessarily have family here. So you can hire, but you really want to hire people from Hawaii if you can. What they're showing is that the migration is really in the sciences, mostly biology, which is detrimental to our medical community if we aren't able to staff doctors and nurses, which is scary because there's more and more people moving here, retiring, who need the medical services, but yet there's going to be no one to provide.
Back to affordable housing. It's an issue that obviously affects thousands of residents. It's huge, it's massive. And there's probably not one easy answer solution. I know the counties recently looked at proposing a change to the condos and what people can do with them, whether it's long-term rentals only or the ability to rent them as short-term rentals. As a legal expert, what do you see as maybe potential solutions? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, so what you're pointing to is the tax office has recently, well, there's a couple measures. First, there has been a movement to take existing condominium units that are zoned for short-term rental or have been grandfathered for short-term rental and change those to long-term rental, which in theory seems like a good idea to provide more long-term housing. But there's a lot of public outcry as to that because people are feeling like they're losing their property rights. You buy a unit, you think that you can make revenue off of short-term renting, and then all of a sudden the county yanks that. And so people are already talking about threatening lawsuits. So, I don't know how the chips will fall, but there's a lot of legal potential lawsuits tying up our courts with that theory. Yeah. The other thing that the county has done is they have taken the property taxes. And so if you have a unit and you can short-term rent it, but say you don't, you long-term rent it, but it's zoned for short-term renting, you still have to now pay that short-term rent tax, which is higher. And so there's a lot of condominium owners upset about that. And because of that, it's in a way backfired for some people because if they're going to have to pay this higher tax, then they're going to go ahead and kick out their long-term tenant, short-term rent it anyway, because they're going to have to pay that higher tax, so they might as well make more money. So those two tax solutions I don't think have been ideal. Yeah. I would like to see county programs to revitalize our existing buildings and our existing structures. Revitalization can be a dirty word because some people equate that with gentrification. Okay. And I'm not pushing that, but what would be nice is to see county programs or money influxing to give to locals to improve their existing structures, maybe do an add-on, be able to have multi-generational families in their existing homes, improve the value of their homes, allow them to upgrade to higher price units because they can sell their homes. And in doing that, you actually improve the community at large, right? If you're increasing the wealth within that neighborhood and you're helping build better homes.
I know in various discussions I've had with different people here, one of the common questions that comes up or ideas, right, proposed solutions is, well, can't we just, make some law or legislation to where local residents can have a benefit or an incentive or a priority that, mainland new buyers, maybe don't have to help protect the local community? Is that even legal though?
Yeah, it is. And so that's actually part of Stanley Chang's proposal is the affordable housing would be available first to those Hawaii residents that don't own other property. And the question is, can you make it Hawaiian, those of Hawaiian descent? But we have a lot of people that are been in here for generations that don't necessarily have Hawaiian descent. So do you open it up to Hawaiian residents? That's a big part of the discussion, but yes. And, currently the county gives, I guess I would call it a homeowner's exemption. So for those residents that live here, we do pay less in taxes, right, if we live here full time on our property taxes. But I think it would be nice to incentivize through other tax breaks for residents that live here.
Right. Yeah, to the point of the 1.1 million, average home price or whatnot. you know, a tax break is helpful, but perhaps that doesn't even help the family get into a home
Right.
still yet. Yeah.
We're the highest in the nation.
Right.
And on rental values, we're the third highest in the nation.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, so the average rental is $2,300. Yeah. And the other staggering statistic is for square footage, we're the smallest in the nation. So you're basically paying the highest price for the smallest amount of space.
Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome to Maui, huh?
It's the sunshine tax, right?
Yeah, well, thank you again for all those insights. So maybe what would be helpful for our audience too is just a little bit more about your background, maybe some of your areas of expertise in the legal field.
Yeah, so I'm actually a patent attorney, which is, you know, I help people, they invent something, I help them get a patent or trademark or copyright. Okay. So, and that's how I started out. I moved to Maui, and I moved to Oahu first, then Maui, and there aren't too many people inventing. You know, I hope that increases, but I ended up in the condo world, so I actually represent approximately 300 condo and community associations throughout the state of Hawaii. Okay. And so that's how I have some knowledge of what's happening on the tax laws and the real property taxes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. And I looked at your resume, Shannon. It was humbling. I mean, from UCSD, Loyola Law School, soccer, lacrosse. I mean, all over the place. I mean, awesome. You know, but so from someone that's accomplished a lot as a young lady, a young woman, and now with the new role with the Hawaii State Bar Association, what do you say to those that are maybe here still, thankfully, but aspiring to have a professional career, whether it's legal or maybe another profession? How do you speak to them maybe from the heart and encourage them? And we know there's a lot of headwinds. You know, what would you say?
Well, I guess I should point out, because it's ironic, I'm from LA in California, right? Like the worst person to have come to Maui. You know what I'm saying? It's like, not the worst, but you know, I am like the standard person that moves to Maui. I'm not Hawaiian born. My kids are Hawaiian born, but I'm not. And so it's like, why do I care so much about this issue? And I think it's because, and you know, I'm obviously a white woman, right? But I'm Jewish. And I see a lot of parallels between the Jewish community and the Hawaiian community. We have traditions, we have cultures that we want to preserve. We face discrimination, and you know, and there's a long history of this culture that you want to preserve. And so when I see it being chipped away at here while living in Hawaii, I guess it hits home for me, and that's why I am passionate about these issues. And so for those that are thinking about, you know, should I move to the mainland or should I come back to Hawaii? I guess my message would be, come back to Hawaii, because you can make such a difference here that you aren't. I mean, you could maybe make a difference on the mainland, but you could also get lost in the numbers and lost in the rat race. But where here, you're making a big difference to your culture, to your community. You can be impactful. And I think, in general, most people, they value wanting to make a difference in the world. So that would be my message. That's my inspiration. That's why I do what I do.